Hey world, Dan Brown here to talk about gaslighting. I feel like I've been seeing this word, gaslighting, a whole lot more as we live into the Trump era. And I guess it makes some sense, right? Trump and his cronies, his administration, don't give a hoot about the truth and bend it to their will. They lie as much as they need to serve their ends. Like his inauguration crowd was a lot bigger than it really was. News that doesn't paint Trump in a favorable light is fake. Anything that happened months ago that also doesn't paint Trump in a favorable light can be denied entirely. It never even happened, right? News isn't news. Truth isn't truth. We're all being gaslit to a certain extent. And, you know, it's frustrating to be a leftist on the left side of the political spectrum and dealing with this bombardment of people trying to undermine my objective experience of reality. But I want to take a minute to pause and go on a brief tangent about even bigger victims of gaslighting, and that would be Trump's most loyal supporters. They're the ones that actually have fallen for it and no longer believe their objective experience of reality. I mean, it's easy to be angry as hell at Trump supporters. I know that I have been ever since his election and throughout the administration. But if defeating Trump ultimately involves shaving off, you know, some of these people anyway from, you know, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Wisconsin, then we need to figure out a way to engage with at least those, some of them that can be convinced that Trump is as evil as he so obviously is to the rest of us, that doesn't result in immediate anger and just shut down the conversation before it even starts. And I'm not trying to propose anything too specific right here, but I think as we're talking about the concept of gaslighting in the Trump era, it might be useful to think of, you know, some of these people not as the enemy, but as people who are in an abusive relationship with the enemy, an enemy who is actively gaslighting them and has them totally snowed as of right now. Like, what would you do if you had a great friend who was in an abusive relationship and being gaslit about it and, you know, didn't see fit to extricate themselves from the, you know, potentially dangerous situation? How would you begin to engage with them? How would you begin to subtly implant the idea in their minds that might eventually grow into a vine they can grab and swing to escape from their abusers? I don't have a specific answer to that. I'm curious as to what you think if you want to leave a comment below. But yeah, as we talk about gaslighting, just think it might be a useful aside. But it's not just the right that is being gaslit right now. The left is being gaslit actively by mainstream media outlets and by, you know, big business interests about the issue that is increasingly becoming my focus, and, you know, I mean, the issue to unite us all in our existential fear. That's climate change. Okay, as climate change becomes the issue to unite us all, there's a specific sort of gaslighting that, you know, this Twitter exchange was screen capped and made the front page of Reddit the other day. It's this constant cynical implication that climate change is somehow in any way your fault, specifically for not doing enough green things, not making enough green life choices. It's your fault. It's all of our faults, right? That's not true. That's not true. Even if all of us lived in perfectly green homes and drove electric cars and recycled at every single opportunity and gave up the majority of meat that we consumed, it would not be enough to prevent society's slide into absolute and total climate chaos. I mean, nothing will be enough to prevent our society slide into some amount, a large amount of climate chaos, but total chaos will only be avoided if we fundamentally restructure the shape of our society. We need 100% renewable sources of electricity. We need stiff penalties for polluters. We need a full-scale walking back of post-World War II materialism generally, right? It's casual. It's easy to casually accept these like go green listicles that you see out there as, you know, being on our side, fighting for an eco-friendly future. But if you take a 1,000-foot view, if you recognize that they're gaslighting you into thinking that climate change is really your fault, it's really serving the interests of billionaire polluters like the Koch brothers, who are featured in spooky cartoon silhouette on this particular slide. Yeah, the more of this crap that you see and you internalize, the guiltier that you can be made to feel about how little you personally are doing to prevent climate change. This rests on your shoulders. Why haven't you solved the problem yet? And if you're not doing anything to prevent climate change, why should the Koch brothers? Why should billionaire interests? Huh? They shouldn't have to change anything, right? And you might be wondering, so why is the mainstream media so complicit in this form of gaslighting? And I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that they're as evil as the Koch brothers necessarily, but because their power, the power of the mainstream media today, comes from the current status quo that also enables billionaire polluters, like, they don't have an interest in the short term of seeing a climate-inspired global revolution that might undermine their hold on power. So, you know, they contribute. I mean, sometimes, you know, there are positive articles coming out of these, you know, mainstream media sources, but they're confused. They're not going to be the ones to lead us into the sort of future that we need, into the sort of changes that we need to guarantee a sustainable future, right? Their goal in this sort of article is to take our eyes off the ball, to take our eyes off of the 100 corporations that are responsible for 70% of global emissions, like that tweet exchange that made the front page of Reddit the other day was talking about right there. I mean, this isn't to say that all else being equal, you shouldn't choose to do green things. Like, of course you should. Of course you should make green life choices wherever is convenient for you, but that's not the giant that needs to be slayed here, right? That is not going to prevent our slide into total climate calamity if we don't also tackle the issue of you know, multinational corporations that are polluting and polluting and polluting far more than you could in 100 lifetimes, even if you were trying to pollute as much as is humanly possible, right? If the green version or the green choice for anything in your life gets in the way of the broader struggle against billionaires, against the status quo that dooms us to you know, breathe in more dust than oxygen by the year 2100, then, you know, don't feel like you have to do it. Don't allow yourself to be gaslit by these people, right? If there's no such thing as ethical consumption in a system that is as rotten to the core as a system that we live under. And if chicken is cheaper than tofu and the difference in price would make a difference in your quality of life and your ability to struggle against the man, then, you know, don't feel too guilty about making that choice. Okay, we need to stay focused on the huge evils in the world, okay, and we need to fight against them together.